There is a belief in some early childhood circles that child-led learning means that the adult should never have any input into the child's learning process. That the role of the teacher within child-led learning is a passive one. We're there mainly to observe and monitor safety and just let the child's path take its natural course, and the child will eventually come to their own conclusions. I'm Nicole Trevellis-Fravel, and this is Wild with Teaching. And today I am going to kind of debunk the myth that child-led learning means that the teacher is a passive agent. Now, I understand why some people might believe this. We've been told that play is the way, right? That children learn best through playing without any adult intervention. But I'm going to ask you, do world-class athletes get to that top level without top-level coaches? Do doctors skip their internships and residencies under more experienced professionals and just go straight to practicing medicine on their own? Well, no, because you know that saying, you don't know what you don't know. So why would early childhood educators only take a completely passive role in children's education? Why would we think that 3-year-olds with their 3 years of exposure on this earth would know where to go next with their explorations about the world without active adult participation? So at best, this passive approach leads to stagnation in the children's learning, right? I've gone this far and I don't know where to go next. I mean, at worst, it leads to behavior problems or destructive use of materials when children get bored and unable to take their learning in a different direction. So, how do we as educators ensure that children really are learning from play? And how do we manage the line, right, between guiding and taking over, right? We still want children to have agency. We want it to be child-led. And so the best, most responsive educators know that child-led is your starting point, but that in order to support the children in their child-led process, in order to move them to that next step, it's a give and take between the child and the teacher. So the analogy that I've often heard is you think about passing a ball back and forth. So first, the children have the ball, right? They are starting out with it. They are discovering something. They are exploring. They are interacting with the material. They are asking questions, right? And so then that ball gets passed back to the teacher, who takes their questions, their explorations, and says, oh, here's something new from my experience that I can bring into the exploration, or here are some questions that I can ask the child that maybe leads them to problem solve. What are they thinking about in their experience? And then again, now teacher passes the ball back to the children, right, and takes a step back. The children are going to interact with those new materials that the teacher brought, or the children are going to think about how they might explore answers to the questions that the teacher has asked. And so they're going to do a little bit more. Teacher's going to observe, children passing the ball back to the teacher to add something, again, new to the experience. So it's this continual back and forth between the teacher and the child, and everyone is actively bringing something to the process, that delicate line that the teacher has to straddle is bringing something to the process without taking over. The leading driver of the process is the child's curiosity. And then we just want to be open to guiding them somewhere, right, by the benefit of our experience. So I'm going to give you a concrete example from Wildwood Nature School, and just so you can see how this back and forth goes. And so about March, I'd say it was one March, the children were playing with these translucent blocks that we have, and they got all excited. They said, "Look, Nicole, we made colored shadows." Now, they have been playing with these blocks all year round, but we are in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and for most of the year, it is rainy. Honestly, even in March, it is often rainy. We had some rare sun in March, and so the children noticed all of a sudden that there were some colored shadows when they were playing with the blocks. And so I thought, well, this is something that the children were interested in. They all started making colored shadows. And so now they've passed the ball back to me. And I'm thinking, what can I bring in? So the first thing was just to set up a little provocation that helped them explore that concept a little bit more. And so I started thinking, well, what translucent objects do I have? Right? Well, I happen to have these little test tubes. I might have some plastic cups. I had some bits of colored cellophane. And then I thought, well, let's not stop there, right? Let's think about the difference between something that is opaque, right? Or transparent, or translucent, or something that is maybe a mix of things, right? And so brought in a mix of objects and some flashlights in case the sun was not shining that particular day, and led the children, let them explore. Meanwhile, yes, we teachers did give them a vocabulary for opaque and translucent and transparent. And then we saw that with the flashlight, shadows might be different shapes or different sizes, which led us to play a little bit more with shadows, right? We wanted to see if we could make, just like we could make our shadows different shapes, could we make shapes that were colored with our colored shadows? And so the children started taping the colored cellophane. That might not be the best example because it's yellow, but they started taping the colored cellophane onto these just stencils that we had and seeing what happened when they projected their shapes onto the ground, which then led to them saying, hey, what if we make our own? What if we make our own stencils and we make our own shadows? They were passing it back to me. From benefit of my experience, I showed them how to make kind of like a paper snowflake process where they could make shapes and designs, cut them into paper, and make their own sort of stencils. And again, like that's a little bit of actually direct teaching, right? Here's how you make a stencil. And then one of the things that I had brought out when we were exploring different objects and their light was CDs. And so the CDs had the benefit of doing two different things. One, they could make reflections to a new word, a new thing to experience, right? And so now we can start exploring mirrors. Another thing that the CD did was sometimes it made rainbows. Right? So again, we brought in prisms and we brought in bubbles and we brought in water to try to explore further this idea of how nature makes rainbows. So from that one observation of children saying, look, colored shadows. We actually had 2 or 3 months worth of back and forth explorations where one thing just kind of naturally led to the next. And my job as a teacher was to really think, what are they exploring and what can I add to their child-led exploration? Right? I'm never going in a direction that they're not going in. If they had not talked about rainbows, that wouldn't have been something that we brought into our exploration of light and shadow. Um, so I hope you've seen a little bit about how the teacher does take an active role in child-led learning, and that balance is to straddle the line between enabling further exploration or asking questions to get children thinking and taking over as an adult. At no point it was, well, this is why it happens, and I'm going to tell you why. I want you to come to your own answers because that is, of course, more powerful. But you can't come to your own answers if I haven't brought in the materials that you can use to do that. So, if you would like to continue learning about how children can challenge themselves in nature-based child-led spaces, I encourage you to join our Wild Wonder and Wisdom membership. We're actually running a holiday special right now for 15% off the prices. And what the membership is a way of getting you into the practice or of furthering your practice, right? This is kind of a teacher-led space where you'll decide, right, what you want to learn. I have a couple of things already set up. So in January, we're going to do a workshop on using winter weather for science learning. And then in February, we're going to follow that workshop up with more of a roundtable discussion with all of your peers that are in our community, just kind of problem solving about winter weather and outdoor nature-based learning. How do you tackle that? And so each topic every other month we'll either do a workshop led by me, and the following month is going to be more of a collaboration where everybody learns from each other. And these topics are going to be ones that are chosen by our community. What do we feel like would further our learning? And we're going to use the benefits of experience of me and of everybody in the community to further our learning. So there will be a little card that appears above my head that you can click on to join the membership. And there'll also be an attachment underneath this video. And I do urge you to take advantage of the extra 15% savings on either a month-by-month membership or a yearly membership by using the code NATURE25. So I will also see you here next week for another episode of Wildwood Teaching, when we will be talking about the false dichotomy between play-based and academic learning. I will see you there.